Germany is the land of insurances. It seems like there is an insurance for everything imaginable. Some of these insurances, like health insurance, you have to have. Some are very helpful to have, and some are just kind of stupid and useless. So how do you know which ones are worth it? I'm Josiah. On this channel, we are talking about life in Germany. It would be really helpful if you hit that like button if you find today's video helpful, and of course, be sure to subscribe for future content just like this. I want to give you a very basic overview of these two types of health insurances that I think are very worth it, and look at what they cover and why they are helpful to have. Haftpflicht and Hausrat insurances. They are both very affordable and could potentially save you thousands of euros if anything were to ever happen in the future. Whether you're renting an apartment, a house, or you're just renting a room, or maybe you're buying something, the insurance that every person in Germany should have is Haftpflichtversicherung, or liability insurance. Haftpflichtversicherung, or liability insurance, is why everyone's not being sued in Germany so often. So what does a liability insurance cover? First off, it covers any damage that you might do to another person. Say you're walking down the street, somebody riding their bike, and you cause them to crash. The insurance will cover the damage that maybe their bike needs to be repaired. It's going to cover that. Maybe they are physically injured and need long-term rehab, something their health insurance won't cover. That's when the liability insurance is going to kick in and pay for those costs. Damage to another person's property, like that bike that was damaged. Or if you break someone's laptop, their phone, their iPad, or say your child kicks a ball through a neighbor's window, those sorts of damages are going to be covered. It's also going to cover damage to a rental property. Say you rent an apartment and there's a fire. The actual apartment itself, if there's things that need to be repaired, it would pay for that. It wouldn't pay for the stuff inside. That would be paid for by Hausrat, which we'll talk about in a minute. Actual damage done to the property that does not belong to you, but to your landlord. This is sometimes why landlords will make you have a Haftpflicht insurance in order to rent an apartment from them. It will also cover financial loss. Say when your child kicked that ball through the window and your neighbor was about to go out the door, go to the airport and catch a flight to somewhere, but they needed to stay home, take care of the window. They couldn't leave a big hole in their house and they missed their flight. So your liability insurance would cover the damage to the window, but also the expenses incurred from that neighbor who had to rebook his flight. All of those financial loss costs would then be carried by liability insurance. So what are some of the things that it doesn't cover? Well, it's not going to cover any intentional damage. So if you try to push somebody over on their bike and their bike is damaged, it's not going to cover that because you did it on purpose. It's not going to cover any damage done by, say you have a dog. There's actually an extra insurance for dogs and pets. It's not going to cover any rented equipment or items. It's not going to cover damage done because you lose your keys, or say your office keys and now they have to change all the locks at your office. It's not going to pay for that. You get to pay for that. Though sometimes there is an extra added coverage for key loss, but it's not standard. It's not going to cover anything you're doing at work. Your employer should have their own insurances covering what you do at work. If you volunteer somewhere, it's not going to cover that. Any damage that affects you is not covered by your insurance. So it does not cover your own property. Or say your kid breaks your stuff, your phone, your iPad. That would be a dream if the Haftpflicht covered that, but sadly it does not. That would be nice. So who is this insurance for? I suggest it's for everyone. It's not very expensive. You can find plans that start out for 50 euros a year. If you have kids, you for sure should have this, and you can buy family plans for not much more money that cover you, your spouse, and your kids. Haftpflicht is going to cover damage that you do to another person or their property, and Hausrat, the next type of insurance, is going to insure your belongings in your home or on your property. If you're able to flip over your home, your apartment, your house, and shake it, and everything that were to fall out or everything that you take with you when you move, those are the sorts of things that a Hausrat insurance is going to cover. There are lots of variations of Hausrat insurances, And sometimes it will cover more and sometimes they'll cover less, depending on what you need and what you want covered. As you begin looking and searching for the right insurance, some things I think are worth having part of every Hausrat plan is bike theft insurance. If you live in a city in Germany, you're going to want this. Bike theft insurance will also cover, say your stroller is in your house and was stolen. I had this happen. Somebody stole a stroller, and literally the next day is when I went and bought Hausrat insurance because my stolen stroller was not covered. But if I ever have a stroller stolen in the future, it will be insured. Elemental damage is another thing you're going to want to make sure is on your plan. It'll cover things like a flood in your basement and your stuff gets destroyed. That's insured. And when you're choosing a plan, make sure the insurance amount or the total amount your property is insured for is sufficient to the value of your belonging. If it's too high, you end up paying more every year because you're insuring a higher value of goods, and maybe it's too high and you're over-insuring yourself and you're just spending more money on your insurance. Or if it's too low, you're not actually going to insure all of your belongings. One of the trickiest parts of choosing your Hausrat is what amount you should insure yourself for. So you're gonna need to think, take some time, and see what amount is right and accurate. You can change it and up it if you need to as you buy more goods or you buy new things, whatever. So how do you begin in choosing any one of these insurances? There's lots of them out there, some good, some bad. I use the service from Check24 and Tariff Check. They function like a search and comparison site so that you can see different insurances kind of compared against each other, and they kind of have reviews. I find that a very helpful resource. There'll be some links down below that you can click. There are as well some interesting startup types of insurance companies. Sometimes they focus directly with expats, so everything would be in English and they're very app-based. I haven't used any of them yet, but I've seen some that look pretty interesting. I'm thinking about taking them for a test drive. I'll put some links down below to some of the ones I'm looking at. If you have any questions about the insurances, let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. Until next time.